From the outside, it looks like a collection of silver bubbles linked by tubes. But inside, it's a busy city filled with people from all species. That's the dream of Xavier Oha, an architect participating in Impending Design, a seminar on the future of cities as the galaxy moves into the, nowadays, 23rd century. We have to accommodate changes in taste while maintaining full functionality for all sentient peoples, says Oha. For example, the interior of the Bubble City is designed to be comfortable for body sizes ranging from Volus to Krogan. The modular rooms, inspired by Earth colony buildings, give us structure that can be taken apart and rearranged to meet any needs. Oha urges curious viewers to take a virtual tour of these experimental cities online. The average Vorcha has a life expectancy of only 20 years. Can that be extended? If so, should it? These questions are being asked after a paper published by Dr. Minador Lux claimed experimental gene therapy might be able to double the Vorcha lifespan. At a press conference, Lux stated that the unique biology of the Vorcha already holds the key to slowing down their aging process. We must simply adapt their ability to undergo radical cellular changes when adjusting to new environments. The report was widely condemned by the scientific community, including the University of Sagan's biology professor Himar Pathathor. Lux's paper combines gross irresponsibility with wishful thinking. The doctor is talking about waltzing in and tinkering with basic physiology as if he were beating genes on a string. This could only begin to be excusable if he solicited the opinion of a single Vorcha about his work, which he has not. The Salarian Institute for Exoarchaeological Research announced today that the latest addition to its museum is now open to the public.
Our new Lost to Ashes wing is devoted to sapient races destroyed by nuclear war,
said Institute Director Nareed Jarwinar.
So far, we know of 6 species in the galaxy whose history has been devastated by the fires of atomic Armageddon. Entire civilizations once flourished, rose to great heights of scientific advancement, and then destroyed themselves over disagreement we can often only speculate about.
The museum's new exhibit specializes in preserving artifacts of those lost races in an effort to shed light on their history.
Who knows what these races might have offered the galaxy? By carefully analyzing the remnants of these cultures, we may yet decipher a nugget of knowledge that puts a face to these unknown people.
Just when it seemed the worst might be over for Sonax Industries, rumors are flying that their Supreme Commander, Lyra Spite, has floated her resume across the extranet. Spite denies the rumor and says the document, which seems to have been made by someone who knows her employment history, is a fake.
I am a Sonax employee,
she declares.
I am under contract until the last Sonax soldier leaves Garvag. It would be premature to look for other opportunities when there is still a mountainous task ahead of us.
Meanwhile, Sonax's stock has taken another significant dive, dropping 12.3 credits a share over the course of last week. Further controversy is brewing over a proposed life extension treatment for Vorcha, after revelations that research funding was provided by Bloodpack Commander Quash Hergot. Some fear that Dr. Minador Lux's age-lengthening research may strengthen the already powerful Krogan and Vorcha mercenary band. Others believe it's a lure for Vorcha recruitment. The Doctor and his highly theoretical work are incidental, claimed one Citadel diplomat. The promise of longer life is simply a carrot for Hergot to dangle in front of his Vorcha friends. Lux's research has been confiscated and is currently undergoing review to determine whether it falls outside the boundaries of the Citadel's genetic engineering restrictions. It was announced today that a deep space mining ship stumbled upon a previously unknown world in the Nubian expanse that appears to have suffered a nuclear holocaust. This planet, 433 Spidau, brings the number of known sapient species destroyed by nuclear war to 7.
All evidence points to a massive exchange of nuclear weapons some 1,000 years ago. Scans indicate at least 90 cities reduced to rubble that still bear radioactive markers,
said Nareed Jarwanar of the Solarian Institute for Exoarchaeological Research.
Reaching the nuclear threshold seems to be an important epoch in any civilization's evolution. This discovery is just another reminder that surviving the threshold is by no means guaranteed. Yet each race we discover is another potential treasure trove of new information and new ways of looking at the universe. It's also proof that every race, even one separated by vast gulfs of space, faces the same universal struggle for survival.
Controversy engulfed the Solarian Institute for Exoarchaeological Research today after an anonymous employee leveled accusations that it is deeply involved with Solarian intelligence services. The unidentified employee said,
"They claim to be studying ancient galactic cultures in the interests of expanding our view of the past. That's true to a point. The Institute does serve a legitimate academic function, and it is staffed with genuine scholars, but it's just a front. The research is carefully monitored by Solarian intelligence. Any interesting discoveries they find are quickly passed along to the spooks. The fact is, without the covert funding provided by Solarian intelligence, the Institute would cease to exist."
When reached for comment, the Institute's director, Nareed Jarwanar, angrily replied,
"We're outraged at this attempt to disparage our reputation. These accusations are patently untrue."
New evidence has surfaced amid accusations that the Solarian Institute for Exoarchaeological Research is a front for Solarian intelligence. Research documents have been obtained from teams working on the newly discovered planet 433 Spidau, which was the scene of a nuclear war some 1,000 years ago. The documents indicate the teams found an underground bunker stocked with advanced weaponry which was still intact. However, those items went missing when shipped to the Institute for analysis. The implication is that Solarian intelligence intercepted them en route. Institute Director Nareed Jarwanar today conceded.
"We conducted an internal review and discovered a handful of employees working for the Institute who did have current intelligence ties. Those employees have been terminated, and our Institute is ready to move forward without undue influence from the state."
The Solarian Institute for Exoarchaeological Research announced today that its director, Nareed Jarwanar, is stepping down.
"We wish Dr. Jarwanar the best of luck in his future endeavors,"
said Institute spokesman Hamis Karad, who cited internal disagreement as the reason for Jarwanar's departure. In the same press conference, Karad pointed out the Institute is petitioning the public for investors.
"In the wake of a recent mistreatment by the press, a number of our trustees have withdrawn their support,"
he said in a press conference today.
"However, we remind potential donors that the Institute maintains an exclusive presence on the planet 433 Spidau, and there is no better time to become a part of history."
Asked what percentage of the Institute's funding came from intelligence service fronts, Karad replied,
"I don't count Kepta
Roaches.
as they leave the house. I'm just happy that they're gone."
A navigation malfunction turned tragic when an Oyama Industries surveyor landed on a restricted planet and died at the hands of enraged local colonists. A video smuggled off-planet shows Jason Pires, son of billionaire entrepreneur Byron Pires, being held captive and brutally executed. The ship landed on the planet Kopanis, whose colony is a known haven for followers of Strata Pact, a fanatical anti-technology group who have cut themselves off from the wider galactic community. Infamous for acts of terror against industrial manufacturers, the group established the colony 17 years ago. Kopanis' star, Jornus, is located inside the Terminus systems. Therefore, no formal inquiry can be made into what sparked the event. Pires was 34 and leaves behind a wife and 2 daughters. billionaire entrepreneur Byron Pyrrhus has offered 5 million credits for any information on the group responsible for the death of his son Jason. Jason Pyrrhus was executed yesterday at the hands of the Strata Pact on Kopanis. The Strata Pact, a militant anti-technology group tied with several acts of terror, has offered no reason for the execution. A visibly shaken Pyrrhus announced at an alien press conference, "Anyone who can bring me the names of the monsters responsible will get 5 million credits, no questions asked." Ilium authorities strongly caution against individuals confronting the colony, which is reportedly quite militant and well armed, even by Terminus system standards. Ivor Johnstag, the man who tried to take the life of Volus ambassador Venta Tox, was released today after spending 21 years in prison. Johnstag made headlines when he tried to shoot the ambassador from the top of a car park on Ilium. He claimed to be sent by Eternal Earth, a now defunct radical political party founded after the First Contact War. Investigators found no evidence of his claims, and diagnosed Johnstag with paranoid schizophrenia during his incarceration. The backlash from the assassination attempt almost cost the Systems Alliance an embassy seat on the Presidium. Upon his release, Johnstag issued a statement saying that he intends to refuse any offers for his life story, since he has powerful enemies waiting to see what I do. I'm either a quiet man or a dead one. Maybe it's the downturn in economy, or the fact that it's the largest jackpot in history, but people are snapping up tickets for the 1.7 billion credit prize in this year's Lucky 88 lottery. Says one player,
"Guarded optimism. Our office pool has collectively purchased 315 tickets. Wistful hope. What a dream come true if we had that winning number."
It's rumored that over 1 billion tickets have already been sold on planets from Thessia to Kaelson. The draw will be held next week. The weekend box office is in, and audiences paid to be horrified. Solarian shocker The Jar played on the universal modern fear of being trapped in a simulsim to the tune of 2.05 billion creds. Talons, on the other hand, played on the human fear of Turians rending human throats with their razor claws, scaring up 1.86 billion and not a little controversy. At third was the counter-programming, the 840-year-old version, whose romp through the life of an impossibly nerdy Asari netted a handy 1.43 billion. Coming in fourth was the low-budget Binder, which answered the question, who exactly binds the books covered in human skin in all those other horror movies? If you never wonder this, you're not alone. Only 998 million credits went to this cerebral chiller. The Terminus Systems colony of Kopanis is in flames tonight, having suffered a devastating attack allegedly perpetrated by Eclipse mercenaries. The colony garnered galactic attention when billionaire Byron Pyrrhus sought information on the execution of his son at the hands of the Strata Pact, a terrorist organization based on Kopanis. If the speculation that Eclipse and Pyrrhus are responsible is correct, this private war against the anti-technology zealots would be one of the largest individually funded offensives in recent history. Pyrrhus himself, who was last seen on Ilium, could not be reached for comment. The Royal Center for Education and the Arts on the planet Gatali is hosting a 2-week lecture series on the Krogan rebellions, part of the Living History initiative to chronicle both sides of the war. The focus of this year's talks is the enslavement of several occupied worlds by Krogan forces and the possibility of reparations for families of former slaves. In a surprise announcement, several Krogan warlords from Tuchanka have stated they intend to attend the lectures. A history lecture on the Krogan rebellions turned into a battleground of impassioned debate today. Former Asari commando matriarch Adora Elia recounted her experiences during the rebellions for audiences attending the lecture series. Her haunting descriptions of raiding slave camps on Krogan-occupied worlds deeply affected many in the audience. Then, during a question session, Krogan warlord Ravenor Tusk asked if the Asari would pay reparations for Krogan slaves used as forced labor during the last days of the war. After matriarch Elia denied any Krogan had been enslaved, Tusk's response was,
"You're either a fool, a liar, or senile."
The rest of the evening turned into a heated argument between Warlord Tusk, matriarch Elia, and students and historians attending the lecture. Gatali's Living History lecture has been extended, as the question of Krogan rebellion slave reparations is fiercely debated by academics, legal experts, and the last 3 Asari veterans of the war. Says one attending Krogan,
"My father's father was captured by Asari and forced to build their camps. After the war, he killed himself out of disgrace. If the Asari want to settle debts, they can start right there."
Asari historian Konis Solia claims that Krogan were enslaved in only a few isolated incidents.
Shamefully, a small minority of Asari commando groups did use Krogan prisoners as forced labor during the rebellions. The enslaved were less than 100 in number, and the commandos responsible were stripped of their rank and severely punished. Strangely, while the slaves taken by Krogan numbered in the tens of thousands, I haven't heard a word about reparations from their side.
Krogan and Vorcha crowds danced in the streets and fired weapons as starships took home the first of the corporate soldiers who had occupied the planet Garvug since the aborted coup 7 months ago. "No one in my platoon is going to miss it," said one anonymous soldier serving with Guanghui Solutions, "but everyone's wondering if they could have done more." Their situation is less grave than that of government forces in Dazil, who described the situation as a nightmare. Orut Tern, liaison to the Rask Vorcha pack, wonders, "What do they think is going to happen without troops? The guerrillas are going to take back power and everyone's in government's going to get purged." Orut is fleeing the planet and he is not alone. Starways Space Travel says all flights leaving Garvug are booked solid for the next 6 weeks. The winner of Lucky 88 Lottery's 1.7 billion credit jackpot claimed the prize today, then promptly gave away the first payment. Hours after the Unified Bank of Irun transferred its first payment to a lucky Hanar called Brimiel, the credits were donated to various relief funds for the disaster-struck planet of Balan. Brimiel spoke to the press about its visits to the beleaguered planet, saying that it had been touched both by the suffering and the spirit of cooperation among its people. The sum this one received was a blessing which it believes should be shared. May Balan be guided by the gifts of the Enkindlers. Also, while speaking to the press, this one would appreciate a moment to request that people cease petitioning it for funds it no longer possesses. It is having difficulty keeping up with its email. Accountability remains a source of heated debate in the case of a collection of sensitive Turian military data uncovered on a memory chip that was purchased at a salvage yard on the planet Monrini. The chip was one of many that was auctioned off to scrap trader Sidney Wall. Wall learned of the data when he began to catalog his purchase for resale. He reported the find to local authorities, who confiscated the chip and contacted the Turian hierarchy. The chip's contents are reportedly wide-ranging, including blueprints for Turian fighters and results of Turian war-gain scenarios. The hierarchy will begin a formal inquiry next week to seek culpability. A celebration thrown in honor of Tandy Noble, daughter of billionaire media mogul John Noble, is being called the social event of the season. The festivities began with a fireworks display rivaling anything that could take place planetside. Custom orbital explosives, maximized for display in vacuum, were created for the event at a cost estimated in the tens of millions. Invited guests watched the presentation from Noble's private cruiser as it circled the rings of Saturn. Noble also used the opportunity to introduce his new e-magazine, Haute Monde, which is aimed at the galactic elite. The bombing of 15 high-traffic docks on Omega has been confirmed as salvos in the ongoing gang war plaguing the troubled station. Over 200 people were killed, and nearly a dozen starships were destroyed in blasts that targeted docks controlled by the Blue Suns mercenary group. Witness reports are mixed, with some claiming to have seen Eclipse mercenaries before the explosions, while others say that Blackpack mercs ran through the vicinity just prior to the bombings. The Citadel Travel Advisory recommends immediate cancellation of all travel to the station. A botched cosmetic surgery is in the center of a three-way legal battle between representatives of Asari actress Monaya Kitten Calder, producers for the weekly drama The Lower Wards, and the private practice of surgeon Dr. Awid Francis. In documents released today by Calder's legal representative, the actress is seeking damages from Dr. Francis for unacceptable results on a recent facial reconstruction procedure. In a separate but related action, the actress is suing the producers of The Lower Wards for violating the contract that does not include a physical representation clause upon her termination from the drama after nearly 18 years. The documents contend that the actress is within her rights to alter herself via elective surgery if desired. Travel to Omega is still off limits, as 79 more people were gunned down an hour ago in what security experts are calling an escalating bloodbath. Captain Quart Vadus of Ilanus Risk Control claims he's seen this kind of thing before and that it will get worse before it gets better. It isn't rare for Omega to experience this level of violence, Vadus said, but it's rare for it to last this long. Gangs are taking advantage of the chaos to settle old scores before the power shifts again. Asked what ordinary citizens on Omega should do to avoid getting caught in the crossfire, Vadus responded, "Hide." The luxury liner Kanmar had to make a scheduled stop at the now violent Omega space station when onboard systems catastrophically failed during a routine touring cruise. The crew quickly secured passengers aboard the ship while hastily conducting repairs. An Omega representative, known as Arya Tlok, encouraged passengers to make the best of their stay and assured anyone wishing to see the exotic sights that Omega was safe and secure. No incidents were reported aboard the Khand, despite heavy fighting reported to be taking place elsewhere on the station. Earth's Council for the Preservation of Human History and Culture has officially designated the colony of Eden Prime as a culturally significant site. Eden Prime was humanity's shining jewel, demonstrating the species could succeed on the galactic stage, before it suffered a devastating attack by Geth forces led by ex-Spectre agent Saren Arterius. A public memorial and museum have been opened at the site of the destroyed colony. The opening ceremonies, scheduled for next week, will feature a visit by Systems Alliance Prime Minister Amol Shastri. The Sol system is abuzz after a binary helix research outpost found life on Jupiter's moon of Europa. Scientists on the Nautilus facility, a station built underneath Europa's vast ice sheets, discovered microorganisms inside a rock sample taken from the moon's ocean floor.
Life is tenacious,
says head researcher Dr. Susa Gol.
Scientists have theorized for decades that Europa could sustain an underwater ecology. It's incredible to be at the vindication of some of the field's earliest xenobiological hopes.
Dr. Gol hoped to find even more sophisticated life as her team sends more probes to explore the site where the microorganisms were found. The Systems Alliance is clashing with Binary Helix over which group has first rights to the genetic material of newly discovered microorganisms on Jupiter's moon of Europa. Europa is Alliance territory, says Commander Lowry, head of intrasolar development. We gave Binary Helix permission to build a facility, not patents to Sol System life. Binary Helix spokesperson Jamie Cho replied, "The contracts signed by the Alliance were very clear. Binary Helix has first claim to any new biological life forms created, modified, or discovered on Europa. Since legal precedence is in our favor, the Alliance is trying to split hairs." The process is quite literally stomach-turning, but gourmands across the galaxy are lining up to try Reversal, a new gastrointestinal immunosuppressant treatment that allows dextro-levo species to safely sample each other's cuisine. The process is expensive, lasts less than 24 standard hours, and the food provides no nutrition. But restaurants are already busy booking dextro or levo food parties.
It's an adventure,
says food writer and Reversal enthusiast Livian Messalina.
We're opening up new ranges of texture and flavor to each other. Taste still varies from species to species, but that's part of the fun.
Doctors are warning these bold new epicures to watch out for leftovers. Meals should be eaten as soon as possible, and users must purge before the treatment wears off. don't be surprised to find your human friends in a costume today, as large portions of Earth and its colonies celebrate the holiday of Halloween. Originally a Day of the Dead in which masks were worn to scare off evil spirits, Halloween evolved into a secular holiday with popular activities such as carving fruits, wearing costumes, and the curious custom of children going house to house begging for food. It's the biggest night of the year for the candy industry. 25% of their annual sales are typically purchased for the purpose of being distributed on Halloween. This year's hottest selling costumes include Zombie Huerta, Lily Tinigus, and Geth Hunter.